The crystalline spires of Deathworld Prime Station glimmered against the backdrop of an emerald nebula. Its intricate architecture, a testament to the Alliance's 5 centuries of interstellar cooperation. The Grand Meeting Chamber, with its 57 distinct environmental sectors, represented the culmination of engineering brilliance, each section perfectly calibrated for the unique physiological needs of member species. Ambassador Liu Anya of the Siraki observed the preparations with practiced eyes, her translucent membranes shifting in subtle patterns that would be indecipherable to most non-Siraki. The environmental calibrations for the human delegation are complete. Ambassador, reported Javora, the cadre engineer responsible for station maintenance. Her exoskeleton clicked nervously as she approached. Though I must admit, their requirements were unusually broad. Anya's membranes pulsed with acknowledgement. After 27 years as the Siraki representative to the Deathworld Alliance and participation in countless interplanetary negotiations, she had developed an intuitive sense for trouble. This situation carried all the warning signs. Broad requirements are consistent with their planetary history, she responded, her translator converting the complex chemical signatures of Siraki communication into the Alliance's standard auditory language. Humans adapt to almost any environment on their homeworld. It's partly why they qualified for membership. The engineer's appendages twitched in what Anya recognized as skepticism. That's precisely what concerns me, Ambassador. A species that adapts to everything tends to change everything around them as well. Anya couldn't disagree. As a Category 3 Deathworlder herself, she understood the evolutionary pressures that shaped species from hostile environments. The Siraki had evolved on a world of constant atmospheric electrical discharges that would instantly kill most carbon-based life. They had developed accordingly, their silicon-based biology channeling and neutralizing electrical energy. But humans were different. Earth was classified as a Category 4 Deathworld, a planet so relentlessly dangerous that most Alliance scientists had wagered against intelligent life ever evolving there. Yet humans had not only survived, but thrived, spreading across their solar system with remarkable speed. The Council made its decision, Anya reminded the engineer. The integration ceremony begins in 6 hours. Please ensure all systems are functioning at optimal capacity. Javora's manipulators fluttered in affirmation as she departed, leaving Anya alone in the observation deck. Beyond the transparent alloy viewport, the ceremonial ships of 17 member species had arranged themselves in the traditional spiral formation, a symbol of unity and shared purpose. The human vessel was immediately identifiable by its utilitarian design, blocky, asymmetrical, and bristling with communication arrays. It lacked the aesthetic refinement common to Alliance engineering, yet Anya couldn't deny it possessed a certain functional elegance. She activated her personal console, reviewing the human ambassador's credentials once more. Mark Rowan, former military commander, now diplomatic representative of the Unified Earth Government. His file contained the standard biographical data, but little that revealed his character. That was typical of newcomers to the Alliance. They guarded their information carefully until trust was established. Ambassador Anya, a melodic voice interrupted her thoughts. The preliminary gathering is commencing. She turned to find Durak, the Mulari counselor, his gelatinous form pulsing with the chromatic patterns that indicated formal communication. As the leader of the faction opposing human membership, his presence here was a calculated political statement. Counselor, she acknowledged, I didn't expect you to attend the welcoming rituals. When one invites a predator into one's nest, it seems prudent to observe its behavior from the beginning, Durak replied, his outer membrane rippling with emerald skepticism. The humans are not predators in the sense you imply, Anya countered, though she understood his concerns. The Mulari had evolved on a Category 1 world, peaceful, stable, and lacking the environmental pressures that created species like the Siraki or humans. They viewed Deathworlders with a mixture of fascination and dread. They hunted their planet's apex predators to extinction, Duroc noted. They waged wars using atomic weapons. Their history is written in the blood of their competitors, as is the history of many Alliance members, Anya reminded him. The Exir were cannibalistic before their Enlightenment period. The Cadre enslaved 3 sentient species before developing their ethical framework. Evolution on harsh worlds breeds harsh methods of survival. And yet the humans continue practices that others abandoned upon achieving space travel. Duroc persisted. Their mining operations destroy entire asteroids. They build without regard for aesthetic harmony. They replicate biological organisms without proper containment protocols. Anya felt her patience thinning. Which is precisely why they need the guidance of the Alliance. Isolation will only reinforce their more problematic tendencies. Before Duroc could respond, the station's announcement system activated. All ambassadors and counselors, please proceed to the Grand Chamber for the ceremony of integration. The human delegation has departed their vessel and will arrive at Docking Bay 7 in approximately 20 minutes. It seems our debate must be continued another time, Anya said, gathering her ceremonial vestments, a diaphanous cloak that enhanced her natural bioluminescence, marking her status. Duroc's form contracted slightly. Indeed, though I suspect events, rather than arguments, will soon prove one of us correct. The Grand Chamber hummed with the subdued conversations of nearly 300 representatives as Anya took her position on the raised dais. As the senior ambassador from a founding member species, she would formally present the humans to the assembly. The elaborate protocol had been established centuries ago when the Alliance first formed, and adherence to tradition was one of its binding principles. The cavernous room fell silent as the main doors parted. Ambassador Mark Rowan entered first, followed by 6 other humans in matching attire. Anya had reviewed images of humans extensively, but seeing them in person was still disorienting. Their bilateral symmetry was common enough in the galaxy, but their exposed dermal layer, varied coloration, and the tufts of protein filaments sprouting from their craniums gave them an unfinished appearance, as though evolution had been interrupted mid-process. Rowan strode confidently toward the center of the chamber, his posture erect in a way Anya recognized as militaristic. He moved with the fluid grace of a predator species, yet his facial features remained fixed in what her briefings identified as a diplomatic smile, a baring of teeth that, paradoxically, humans considered non-threatening. Distinguished representatives of the Deathworld Alliance, Anya began, her translator projecting in all 17 official languages simultaneously. I present Ambassador Mark Rowan and the delegation from Earth, Category 4 Deathworld, and newest applicant for full membership in our coalition. The traditional response would have been for Rowan to approach slowly, offer the ceremonial phrases of gratitude, and accept the mantle of integration, a symbolic artifact that would be displayed on Earth as a sign of their probationary status. Instead, he walked directly to the speaker's position and activated the universal translator without waiting for permission. Esteemed colleagues, he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber with unexpected volume. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for this opportunity. Earth is honored to join the Deathworld Alliance and eager to contribute to its continued prosperity. A murmur rippled through the assembly. The deviation from protocol was minor, but noticeable. Anya maintained her diplomatic composure, though her membranes flickered with irritation. We bring to the Alliance our resilience, our innovation, and our unique perspective, Rowan continued, apparently oblivious to the stir he had caused. Humans have faced and overcome challenges that have shaped us into ideal partners for this coalition. We've tamed our world, reached for the stars, and now seek to build bridges across the galaxy. He paused, surveying the diverse gathering with unmistakable pride. The benefits we offer are substantial. Advanced biotechnology developed to survive Earth's pathogenic diversity, terraforming techniques that can transform hostile environments, and resource extraction methods that maximize efficiency. But most importantly, we bring our adaptability, the trait that allowed us to dominate a world that, by your own classification system, should have conquered us. Anya stepped forward slightly, a subtle signal that Rowan had spoken long enough. He either missed or ignored the cue. We understand there have been concerns about human inclusion, he acknowledged, casting a glance toward Duroc that bordered on confrontational. Some worry that we move too quickly, adapt too readily, push boundaries better left undisturbed. To those skeptics, I say, judge us by our actions, not by your preconceptions. Humanity has grown beyond its violent past. We seek partnership, not dominance. Finally, he stepped back, allowing Anya to reclaim the central position. The Alliance acknowledges Earth's petition, she stated formally, though her chemical signatures betrayed her discomfort to the few species capable of detecting them. As is customary, representatives will now present the mantle of integration. 2 X-Wire officials approached, bearing between them an ornate, crystalline structure that pulsed with interior light, a living technological construct that symbolized the interconnected nature of Alliance membership. Rowan accepted it with appropriate solemnity, though Anya noted he held it somewhat awkwardly, as though uncomfortable with its shifting weight. Earth is now recognized as a probationary member of the Deathworld Alliance, she announced. For the standard period of 1 galactic cycle, human representatives will observe council proceedings, participate in cultural exchange programs, and demonstrate their commitment to Alliance principles. At the conclusion of this period, a vote will determine full membership status. The Assembly responded with the traditional acknowledgement, a moment of synchronized movement, each species expressing approval according to their physiological capabilities. The humans, clearly briefed on the custom, offered a unified bow. As the formal ceremony concluded and the gathering transitioned to the less structured socialization period, Anya made her way to Rowan, who stood somewhat isolated, as newcomers often were. "Ambassador," she greeted him, "your speech was passionate." Rowan's facial muscles formed what her briefings identified as a self-satisfied expression. Direct communication has always been humanity's preference. We believe in stating our intentions clearly. Clarity is valued, Anya agreed carefully. Though in the Alliance, how something is said often carries as much significance as what is said. I'll keep that in mind, he replied, though his tone suggested otherwise. I'm more interested in substantive discussions than ceremonial niceties. When can we begin negotiations for technology exchange? Earth has much to offer, and much we hope to gain. Anya's membranes rippled with surprise at his forthrightness. The integration period is designed for cultural acclimation before such exchanges begin. It allows trust to develop naturally. With respect, Ambassador, humanity has always accelerated natural processes when they prove inefficient. Rowan gestured toward a cluster of Alliance representatives. Many of your colleagues have already expressed interest in Earth's pathogen-resistant materials. Others are curious about our gravitational manipulation techniques. Why delay mutually beneficial cooperation? Before Anya could formulate a diplomatic response, Minister Antrax of the X-Wire approached. The insectoid being's multifaceted eyes gleamed with interest as his translator rendered his clicking speech. Ambassador Rowan, your mention of biotechnology intrigues me. The X-Wire have specialized in biological sciences for millennia, yet we still struggle with certain aggressive pathogens. Perhaps an informal exchange of research methodologies could be arranged, even during your probationary period. Rowan's expression brightened immediately. Minister Antrax, I would be delighted. Earth's experience with microbial warfare, both against us and harnessed by us, has yielded remarkable defensive innovations. I'm sure we could establish a research partnership immediately. Anya interjected smoothly. Any exchange must follow Alliance protocols for biosecurity. Earth's organisms have not been fully cataloged or assessed for cross-species compatibility. Of course, Rowan agreed readily, though his eyes remained fixed on Antrax. We'll observe all required safeguards, but I'm confident we can navigate the regulatory framework efficiently. The Exwire minister's mandibles clicked in what Anya recognized as enthusiasm. I shall arrange a tour of our biological research facilities aboard the station. Perhaps tomorrow. Perfect, Rowan confirmed, before turning back to Anya with an expression that bordered on triumphant. You see, Ambassador, natural relationships forming already, as the humans integrated into station life over the following weeks. Anya found herself increasingly torn between hope and concern. On one hand, their adaptability was indeed impressive. They required minimal environmental adjustments, consumed a wider variety of foodstuffs than any other species, and seemed capable of establishing rapport with even the most physiologically different Alliance members. On the other hand, their disregard for established procedures created constant friction. Human researchers accessed restricted databases claiming misunderstandings of security protocols. Their quarters rapidly accumulated unauthorized modifications to environmental systems. Most troublingly, they proposed dramatic policy changes during council sessions, where they were meant only to observe. 6 weeks after their arrival, Anya found herself summoned to an emergency meeting of the Senior Advisory Council. As she entered the secure chamber, she immediately noted the tension in the gathered representatives. Councillor Durok's chromatophores pulsed with agitated patterns, while Minister Antrax's normally fluid movements appeared stiff and constrained. Ambassador. High Councillor Vextra acknowledged her arrival, the Rodani's crystalline form refracting light in patterns indicating severe concern. We face an unprecedented situation regarding our human guests. What has happened? Anya inquired, taking her designated position in the circle. Javora, the cadre engineer, stepped forward. 3 separate incidents require attention. First, human waste management practices have introduced unknown bacterial colonies into our recycling systems. Their habit of discarding materials rather than processing them properly has contaminated 2 entire decks. Their concept of disposable items is fundamentally incompatible with closed-system station protocols, added another counselor, a Moravian whose gelatinous form quivered with indignation. Javora continued. Second, security logs indicate human access to restricted information archives, specifically proprietary technological specifications from multiple member species. And third, Durok interjected, his coloration shifting to deep crimson. They have begun unauthorized biological experiments using Alliance facilities. Minister Antrax discovered a human researcher introducing Earth microorganisms in desire biological samples without proper containment protocols. Anya processed this information carefully. Have the humans been confronted with these allegations? Ambassador Rowan was informed 1 hour ago, Vextra confirmed. He expressed regret for any misunderstandings, but insisted that none of these incidents represent deliberate violations. He characterized them as cultural differences in operational procedure. Cultural differences that could jeopardize station safety, Durok noted sharply. This is precisely why I opposed their admission. They refuse to adapt to Alliance standards while expecting us to accommodate their reckless practices. Anya's membranes pulsed thoughtfully. Perhaps we expected too much too quickly. Earth's isolation from interspecies governance means they lack experience with cooperative protocols. A charitable interpretation, Durok responded. But consider an alternative. They understand our protocols perfectly well, but consider them impediments to their objectives. The chamber fell silent as the representatives contemplated this possibility. Finally, Minister Antrax spoke, his normally melodious clicks subdued. I must acknowledge some responsibility in this matter. I encourage the human researchers. fascinated by their novel approaches to biological challenges. But their methods, he hesitated. They treat living organisms as tools to be manipulated without ethical consideration. When I questioned their practices, they seemed genuinely confused by my concerns. Anya had studied Earth's historical records extensively during the application review process. Humans evolved on a world where they competed with countless other species for dominance. Their relationship with other life forms is fundamentally shaped by that struggle. They categorize organisms as either useful, harmful, or irrelevant. Such a worldview is dangerously simplistic, Vextra observed. The interconnectedness of biological systems is a fundamental principle of Alliance science. I propose a formal intervention, Duroc stated. The humans must be confined to their quarters until they demonstrate understanding and acceptance of our protocols. Such a punitive approach would only reinforce their sense of alienation, Anya countered. I suggest instead an accelerated cultural integration program, with designated mentors for each human representative. The debate continued for hours, with opinions divided between those favoring stricter oversight and those advocating for patient education. Eventually, a compromise was reached. Humans would retain their freedom of movement, but be required to attend comprehensive briefings on Alliance protocols and be accompanied by senior staff during all research activities. Ambassador Anya, Vextra addressed her as the meeting concluded. As our expert on interspecies relations, we entrust you with communicating these decisions to Ambassador Rowan. Emphasize that these measures are supportive, rather than punitive. I understand, Anya agreed, though she harbored doubts about how the humans would perceive any additional restrictions. She found Rowan in the station's observation lounge, gazing out at the Emerald Nebula. Unlike most visitors who seemed awed by the cosmic spectacle, his expression was calculating, as though assessing the nebula's potential value rather than its beauty. Ambassador Rowan, she greeted him formally. The Advisory Council has concluded its deliberations regarding recent incidents. He turned, his facial features arranging themselves into the expression humans called a smile, though Anya had learned it often masked other emotions. Ambassador Anya, I trust the Council recognizes these were minor adjustments during our adaptation process. The Council takes station safety protocols very seriously, she replied carefully. Cross-contamination of biological systems, unauthorized access to secure information, and unregistered experimentation are not considered minor concerns. His smile faded slightly. With respect, the standards here are unnecessarily rigid. Humans achieved space travel by embracing flexibility and calculated risk. Your procedures often impede innovation rather than fostering it. Those procedures were developed over centuries to ensure the safety of hundreds of species with vastly different biological requirements. Anya reminded him. Innovation without consideration of consequences has led to extinction events on multiple worlds. Rowan's posture stiffened. Humanity has learned from its environmental mistakes. We're not the reckless primitives some of your colleagues seem to believe we are. No one has characterized humans as primitive, Anya corrected. Quite the opposite. Your technological advancement is impressive. But technology without corresponding ethical frameworks becomes dangerous rapidly. And the Alliance presumes to define those ethical frameworks for all species, he challenged. The Alliance developed those frameworks collaboratively, with input from all member species, she countered. As Earth integrates, your perspectives will be considered as well. But integration requires adaptation on both sides. Rowan paced the observation deck, his movements betraying frustration. We've adapted more than you realize. Do you know how many of our normal operations we've modified to accommodate Alliance sensibilities? We've restricted our communications, limited our exploration, even altered our dietary practices. Yet you've also attempted to circumvent security systems, introduce contaminants into shared environments, and conducted unauthorized experiments, Anya noted. The Council has decided that all human personnel must attend comprehensive protocol briefings and be accompanied by senior staff during research activities until further notice. His reaction was immediate and negative. "You're assigning us babysitters? This is exactly the kind of patronizing approach that makes genuine cooperation impossible." The alternative proposal was to confine humans to their quarters, Anya informed him bluntly. "I advocated for the less restrictive option." This revelation seemed to temper his anger. "I appreciate your intervention, then. But surely you understand our frustration. Humans thrive on independence and initiative, which are valuable traits," Anya acknowledged. "But in an interdependent community, they must be balanced with consideration for others. The Alliance isn't restricting humans because we fear your capabilities. We're establishing boundaries because your actions affect everyone aboard this station." Rowan was silent for a moment, his expression calculating. Finally, he nodded. "I'll inform my team of the new requirements. We'll comply while continuing to advocate for more efficient procedures." "That seems a reasonable approach," Anya agreed, though her membranes flickered with uncertainty. Something in his tone suggested compliance might be more superficial than sincere. In the days that followed, the human delegation demonstrated a surprising level of cooperation. They attended the required briefings, accepted their supervisors without complaint, and even initiated a station-wide presentation on Earth cultural practices as a goodwill gesture. Many council members began to relax their vigilance, seeing the earlier incidents as mere adjustment difficulties. Anya, however, maintained her cautious perspective. She noticed that while the humans had indeed ceased their more obvious violations, they had also become more secretive. Their communications with Earth increased dramatically, often encoded with security protocols that made monitoring difficult. Their research requests, while now properly submitted, focused increasingly on Alliance defense systems and biological containment technology. 3 months into the integration period, her concerns materialized in catastrophic fashion. The emergency alert blared throughout the station, its pulsating rhythm indicating a Class 1 biological hazard, the highest threat level. Anya was attending a routine diplomatic function when the signal sounded, and she immediately activated her command channel. "This is Ambassador Anya. Report status." The response came from Javora, her voice tight with strain. "Containment breach in Biological Research Center 3. Unknown pathogen released. Medical emergency declared for Minister Anthrax and 3 research assistants." Anya felt her membranes constrict with alarm. "Casualties?" "No fatalities reported, but Minister Anthrax is in critical condition. The pathogen appears specifically reactive to X-wire physiology. Initiate quarantine protocols and convene the emergency response team," Anya ordered. "I'm en route to the command center." As she hurried through the corridors, she passed groups of station personnel moving with practiced efficiency toward shelter areas. The Deathworld Alliance had experienced biological contamination events before. They were an inevitable risk of bringing together species from vastly different ecosystems. But something about this incident felt different, more ominous. The command center was already crowded when she arrived. High Counselor Vextra stood at the central console, crystalline form, refracting emergency lighting in dissonant patterns. Counselor Duroc hovered nearby, his chromatophores pulsing rapidly in distress patterns. Notably absent was any representative from the human delegation. "Status report," Anya requested, taking her position at the senior ambassador's station. "The containment breach occurred 47 minutes ago," Javora reported, manipulating the holographic display to show the affected sectors. "Initial analysis indicates the pathogen is a modified strain of an Earth-origin microorganism. Specifically, a variant of what humans call influenza." "Impossible," Anya objected. "All Earth biological samples are required to be stored in Level 5 containment. They can't simply escape." They didn't escape, Duroc interjected, his coloration darkening. They were deliberately introduced into the XYR research cultures. Security footage shows a human researcher accessing the containment units without authorization. The accusation hung in the air, its implications too severe to be immediately accepted. Anya turned to Vextra. Has Ambassador Rowan been notified? We've attempted contact, the High Counselor confirmed. Thus far, he has not responded. The evidence is clear, Duroc insisted. This was a deliberate attack, possibly an attempt to assess our biological vulnerabilities or test Earth pathogens against Alliance species. That conclusion is premature, Anya cautioned. We must investigate thoroughly before making such serious allegations. Javora manipulated the controls, bringing up another display. Medical reports indicate the pathogen has been modified to target specific cellular structures common in Xyr physiology. Such modification requires advanced knowledge of both the original pathogen and its target species. The implications were disturbing. Either the humans possessed far more advanced biotechnology than they had disclosed, or they had used Alliance research data to weaponize an Earth organism. Neither possibility boded well for continued cooperation. Quarantine status? Anya inquired. Containment protocols functioning at optimal levels, Javora confirmed. The affected area has been sealed and is undergoing decontamination. No further spread detected. And Minister Antrax? A new voice answered. Dr. Kalev, the station's chief medical officer. His feathered crest flattened in the Aviani expression of grave concern. The minister remains in critical condition. The pathogen targets respiratory structures in a manner similar to how Earth influenza affects humans. But the XYR immune system has no evolutionary defenses against it. We've synthesized an experimental treatment based on human antiviral medications, adapted for Xyr biology. Will he survive? Vextra asked directly. It's too early to provide certainty, Kalev replied. The next 12 hours will be decisive. The command center doors parted, and Ambassador Rowan entered, flanked by 2 station security officers. His expression was tightly controlled, but Anya detected signs of stress in his rigid posture and rapid eye movements. I came as soon as I was notified, he stated. My delegation is cooperating fully with your investigation. We categorically deny any deliberate involvement in this incident. Yet it was an Earth pathogen, modified using Alliance research data, introduced by a human researcher, Duroc responded, his translator barely managing to contain the chemical signatures of his anger. If true, it represents a terrible breach of protocol by an individual, Rowan acknowledged, but not a sanctioned action by Earth or its government. The distinction may be meaningful to humans, Vextra observed, but less so to the Alliance. Member species are responsible for the actions of their representatives. Rowan's expression hardened. Humans adapt to survive. It's our evolutionary advantage. Sometimes that adaptation occurs at the individual level, outside official parameters. I remind the Council that Earth remains in its integration period precisely, so these cultural adjustments can be made. Cultural adjustments? Duroc's chromatophores flashed with incredulity. You characterize the weaponization of a pathogen as a cultural misunderstanding? I characterize unauthorized research as a failure of oversight, both human and Alliance, Rowan countered. If your security protocols were as robust as you claim, this incident would have been impossible. The room fell silent at this transparent attempt to deflect responsibility. Finally, Anya spoke, her chemical signatures carefully modulated to project authority rather than the anger she felt. Ambassador Rowan, the emergency response team will conduct a thorough investigation. Until its conclusion, all human personnel are restricted to designated areas and prohibited from accessing any research facilities or information systems. This is non-negotiable. For a moment, she thought he might object, but instead, he offered a stiff nod. We will comply while maintaining our right to participate in the investigation and present exculpatory evidence. Your cooperation is noted, Vextra stated formally. You will be informed of all significant developments. For now, please return to your quarters under escort. As Rowan departed with his security detail, the atmosphere in the command center remained charged with tension. Duroc approached Anya, his movements fluid with vindication. You opposed my earlier warnings, he reminded her. Now, we face precisely the scenario I predicted. Humans exploiting Alliance resources while disregarding our most fundamental principles. We don't yet know if this was a deliberate act or a tragic error, Anya cautioned. Does the distinction matter? Duroc challenged. Whether through malice or carelessness, the result is the same. An Alliance minister fighting for his life, and a precedent that threatens our entire community. Anya couldn't entirely disagree. The humans' pattern of behavior had consistently pushed boundaries, tested limits, and prioritized their interests above collective security. Even if this incident proved accidental, it demonstrated a fundamental incompatibility with Alliance values. The investigation will proceed according to established protocols, she stated firmly. Justice requires evidence, not assumptions. And if the evidence confirms our suspicions, Duroc pressed, then the Council will make its decision based on Alliance principles, she replied. As we always have. The investigation proceeded with meticulous thoroughness over the following days. Security logs were analyzed, witness testimonies recorded, and biological evidence examined by specialists from multiple species. Minister Antrax's condition stabilized, but remained serious, his recovery uncertain. Meanwhile, the human delegation found itself increasingly isolated. Other species avoided contact, viewing them with suspicion or outright hostility. Security personnel monitored their movements constantly, and access to station facilities was severely restricted. The atmosphere of cooperative integration had been replaced by thinly veiled antagonism. 7 days after the incident, the emergency response team presented its findings to a closed session of the High Council. Anya attended as the senior ambassador, while Rowan represented Earth under heavy guard. High Counselor Vextra opened the proceedings with formal gravity. The Council is convened to receive the official investigation report regarding the biological containment breach on Stardate 527-83. Dr. Kalev will present the medical findings, followed by Security Chief Talana with the procedural analysis. Dr. Kalev stepped forward, his feathered crest now partially raised in the Aviani expression of professional confidence. The pathogen responsible for Minister Antrax's condition has been conclusively identified as a modified strain of human influenza A, subtype H3N2. This variant was engineered to target specific respiratory structures in X-wire physiology. He manipulated the holographic display, showing microscopic images of the pathogen's structure. The modifications display sophisticated understanding of both human, viral genetics, and X-wire biology. The adaptation could not have occurred naturally. It required deliberate laboratory intervention. Rowan shifted in his seat but remained silent as the doctor continued. However, our analysis of the modification techniques reveals something unexpected. The genetic markers and insertion methods are consistent with Alliance biotechnology. Specifically, the Cadre genome editing protocols used in our medical research division. It does not match known human bioengineering signatures. A murmur of confusion spread through the council. Anya felt her membranes pulse with surprise. Are you suggesting the pathogen was modified using Alliance technology, not human methods? The evidence strongly indicates this conclusion, Kalev confirmed. Furthermore, the strain shows signs of progressive adaptation rather than single-event engineering, suggesting it may have evolved through repeated exposure to Xyre biological samples over time. Security Chief Talana, a Taurid whose massive form dwarfed the presentation podium, took over the briefing. Access logs confirm that human researcher Eliza Chen regularly worked with stored influenza samples as part of an approved cross-species immunity study. However, the security footage from the day of the containment breach has been analyzed in detail. The display shifted to show video of a laboratory. A human figure moved between workstations, handling sealed containers. Initial review suggested unauthorized access to X-wire cultures. Talana continued. Enhanced analysis reveals the containers remained properly sealed. The contamination appears to have occurred through the environmental systems, not direct introduction. She highlighted a section of the recording. Air circulation patterns show the pathogen was present in the ventilation system before the human entered the laboratory. Trace analysis of multiple facilities indicates the contamination originated in the regeneration systems 3 decks below, where human biological waste was improperly processed due to a mechanical failure. The implications became clear. The incident hadn't been deliberate sabotage, but the result of human carelessness combined with system malfunction. In essence, Talana concluded, human viral particles entered the waste processing system, where they were exposed to various biological samples during recycling. The regeneration systems, which utilize cadre bioengineering principles to break down and reconstitute matter, inadvertently created conditions for accelerated viral evolution. When the system failed, it released the adapted pathogen into the ventilation network. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the council processed this information. Finally, Rowan spoke, his tone carefully modulated. This evidence clearly exonerates my delegation from accusations of deliberate biowarfare. We regret the accidental contamination and offer our full cooperation in preventing similar incidents. Exoneration from deliberate action does not equate to absolution from responsibility. Vextra responded. The root cause remains human disregard for waste management protocols, a violation we had previously identified and warned against. A procedural difference, not malicious intent, Rowan countered. Intent becomes irrelevant when the consequences are so severe, Duroc interjected. This incident demonstrates that humans cannot or will not adapt to Alliance standards, even when lives depend on it. The debate intensified, with council members divided between those who viewed the incident as a regrettable accident and those who saw it as proof of fundamental incompatibility. Throughout the heated exchange, Anya remained silent, analyzing the broader implications. Finally, when addressed directly by Vextra, she offered her assessment. The evidence suggests neither deliberate attack nor mere accident, but something perhaps more concerning, a fundamental mismatch between human attitudes toward biological security and Alliance requirements. Humans evolved on a world teeming with pathogens, developing both physiological and cultural adaptations to constant exposure. They view microorganisms as an inevitable environmental factor, rather than a controllable hazard. She paused, aware that her next words would shape the Council's decision. This perspective served them well on Earth, but creates unacceptable risks in an interspecies community. I believe humans can eventually integrate successfully, but not without significant cultural reprogramming and technological safeguards, a process that will require more time and stricter oversight than our standard integration period allows. Her recommendation ultimately prevailed. The Council issued a formal statement expressing profound regret regarding the invitation extended to humanity, while stopping short of completely revoking their probationary status. Instead, Earth's integration timeline was extended indefinitely, with severe restrictions placed on human movement, research access, and technological exchange. Ambassador Rowan was officially demoted from his position of diplomatic privilege to observer status, a humiliating reduction that he accepted with barely concealed resentment. The human delegation was relocated to isolated quarters with enhanced containment features, their communications with Earth heavily monitored. 2 months after the incident, as station operations gradually returned to normal patterns, Anya received a request for a private meeting from Rowan. After consideration, she agreed, arranging to meet in a neutral space with appropriate security measures. He appeared noticeably changed when he arrived, his formerly confident posture now subdued, his expression guarded. The isolation had clearly taken its toll on the once proud ambassador. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," he began, dispensing with formal greetings. "I've been reflecting extensively on recent events and believe we've reached an inflection point in human-alliance relations." "I'm listening," Anya replied neutrally. "Humans have always defined ourselves by our ability to overcome challenges," Rowan stated. "Throughout our history, we've faced extinction-level threats, ice ages, pandemics, nuclear weaponry, climate collapse, and survived through adaptation. When we encountered the Alliance, we approached integration as simply another challenge to overcome. That approach has proven problematic," Anya observed. "Yes," he acknowledged with surprising candor. "We misunderstood the fundamental nature of the Alliance. We viewed your protocols as obstacles rather than the structural foundation of interspecies cooperation. We sought to change the system rather than adapting ourselves to it." Anya's membranes pulsed with cautious interest. "That's an insightful assessment. What prompted this perspective shift?" "Isolation provides ample time for reflection," Rowan replied with a hint of his former dry humor. "But more specifically, Minister Antrax visited me yesterday. This was unexpected news. The ex-wire minister had recovered slowly, and while he had returned to limited duties, he had shown no interest in engaging with the human delegation. He didn't come to assign blame," Rowan continued. "He wanted to understand why humans approach biological research so differently from Alliance species. Our conversation was illuminating. He helped me recognize that Earth's evolutionary history created a species that values individual survival over collective security, a trait that served us well in isolation but becomes dangerously destabilizing in an interdependent community. Minister Antrax has always been remarkably insightful," Anya acknowledged. "Did this conversation lead to any concrete proposals?" "It did." Rowan straightened slightly. "I've submitted a formal petition to the Council, requesting a modified integration program. Earth accepts the extended probationary period and enhanced restrictions. In exchange, we ask for a structured cultural exchange initiative, not to showcase our achievements, as we originally intended, but to understand Alliance values at a fundamental level." The proposal was unexpected, but intriguing. "You're suggesting humans are willing to undergo cultural reprogramming?" "I wouldn't phrase it that way." Rowan smiled faintly. "We're proposing a mutual education program. Humans will learn Alliance protocols and values, while Alliance representatives gain insight into human adaptability and innovation, within carefully controlled parameters." Anya considered the proposition carefully. "The Council remains deeply concerned about biological security risks." "Legitimately so," Rowan conceded. "Which is why Earth has developed new quarantine and filtration systems specifically designed to address Alliance concerns. We've also implemented mandatory cultural training for all personnel before they leave Earth, with emphasis on waste management and contamination prevention." His willingness to acknowledge previous failures without defensiveness suggested genuine change, rather than tactical repositioning. Still, Anya maintained her cautious approach. "These are promising steps, but rebuilding trust will require sustained effort over considerable time." "We understand," Rowan replied. "Humans are impatient by nature, another evolutionary adaptation to our volatile environment. But we're learning that interstellar diplomacy operates on different timescales. We're prepared for the long process ahead." "I will present your proposal to the Council," Anya promised, "though I cannot predict their response." "That's all I ask." He rose to leave, then hesitated. "One more thing. Ambassador, on behalf of Earth, I offer a formal apology for the harm caused by our failure to adapt appropriately. The incident with Minister Antrax was preventable, and responsibility rests with us. The acknowledgement, delivered without qualification or deflection, represented a significant departure from his previous stance. Anya's membranes flickered with cautious optimism as she watched him depart under security escort. The Council's deliberations on Rowan's proposal extended over several sessions, with opinions sharply divided. Duroc and his faction argued vehemently against any relaxation of restrictions, characterizing the humans as fundamentally incompatible with Alliance society. Others, including Minister Antrax himself, advocated for a more nuanced approach, suggesting that human adaptability could eventually become an asset rather than a liability. Ultimately, a compromise emerged. The humans would remain under enhanced security protocols, but limited cultural exchange would be permitted under strictly controlled conditions. Earth would retain its probationary status indefinitely, with quarterly reviews to assess progress. When the decision was announced, reactions were mixed throughout the station. Many Alliance members remained deeply skeptical of human intentions, viewing the incident as proof of inherent incompatibility. Others saw potential value in cautious integration, recognizing that Deathworld species often contributed unique perspectives precisely because of their challenging evolutionary history. The formal declaration, transmitted to Earth and all Alliance worlds, acknowledged both the regret regarding initial human inclusion and the conditional pathway forward. The Deathworld Alliance officially expresses profound regret regarding the premature invitation extended to humanity, recognizing that proper integration requires more extensive preparation than initially assessed. However, we acknowledge humanity's potential contribution to our collective knowledge and affirm our commitment to a modified integration process under enhanced security protocols. The path to full membership remains open, though extended significantly beyond standard timelines. 6 months after the incident, as Anya observed a carefully monitored cultural exchange session between human scientists and Alliance biologists, she reflected on the complex journey that had brought them to this point. The humans participated with noticeable restraint, their former brashness replaced by careful attention to protocols. They were learning, slowly, unevenly, but genuinely. "Quite a transformation," Minister Antrax commented, approaching her observation position. The ex-wire diplomat had fully recovered, though certain respiratory functions remained permanently altered by the infection. "Indeed," Anya agreed, "though I remain cautious about long-term prospects." "As do I," Antrax acknowledged. "But perhaps that's the lesson in all this. Caution need not preclude progress. Humans bring valuable perspectives precisely because they evolved so differently from us. Their recklessness nearly destroyed this station, yet their adaptability may eventually strengthen the Alliance. If they truly internalize our collective values," Anya qualified. "A significant if," Antrax conceded. "But, watching them now, I see genuine effort. They understand, perhaps for the first time, that adaptation must work in both directions. They cannot simply remake the galaxy in Earth's image. They must also remake themselves to function within a larger community." Anya's membranes pulsed with thoughtful acknowledgement. The regret expressed in our official declaration was genuine, yet regret need not be permanent if circumstances evolve. "Precisely," Antrax's mandibles clicked softly. "We regret the premature invitation, not the potential relationship. The door remains open, though the threshold has been raised significantly." As they watched the humans working diligently within their assigned parameters, Anya recognized that this situation embodied the fundamental paradox of the Deathworld Alliance itself. Bringing together species shaped by radically different evolutionary pressures created both tremendous risks and remarkable opportunities. The humans represented an extreme case, but not a unique one. "In the end," she observed, "this may prove the most valuable integration lesson in Alliance history. a reminder that meaningful cooperation requires more than proximity and good intentions. It demands genuine adaptation, transparent communication, and mutual accountability. A lesson written in biological contamination and diplomatic isolation, Antrax noted wryly. As most significant lessons are, Anya replied. Especially for Deathworlders. We evolve through crisis. It's our common heritage. Despite our different paths, the humans continued their careful work, unaware of the philosophical discussion their presence had inspired. Their future within the Alliance remained uncertain, balanced precariously between opportunity and risk. But the path forward had been established, more demanding than originally envisioned, yet potentially more rewarding precisely because of the challenges overcome. The Deathworld Alliance had indeed come to regret inviting humans prematurely. But regret, Anya reflected, often preceded the most meaningful growth for individuals, species, and even interstellar communities. The true test would be what emerged from that regret, rejection, or transformation. For now, at least, the Alliance had chosen the more difficult, but potentially more valuable path. As she watched the careful, tentative cooperation unfolding before her, Anya allowed herself a moment of cautious optimism. The integration of humanity might yet succeed, not on the timeline originally envisioned, nor in the manner first anticipated, but in a form strengthened by hard-earned wisdom and mutual adaptation. After all, that was the essence of evolution itself, whether on a Deathworld or among the stars.